Empress Zelura of the Thrail Dominion had ruled 3 star systems for nearly 4 centuries, her bioluminescent carapace still gleaming with the strength of her prime. But even she could not escape the one truth that haunted every ruler of her species. The continuation of the royal line depended entirely on her daughter. Princess Veilani, her only offspring, was brilliant, diplomatic, and courageous. But she was also barren. It was not a secret in the imperial court, though no one dared speak of it openly. Thrail reproduction relied on a genetic resonance between mates, a biological symbiosis that both created offspring and strengthened the species. For generations, this process had been flawless among the royal lineage, until Veilani. No matter how many perfectly matched Thrail genetic candidates the Empress selected, Veilani's body rejected every attempt at resonance. The royal healers whispered of a broken harmonic node, an anomaly no medicine could correct. And so, with the threat of dynastic extinction looming, the Empress made a choice that had never been made in the history of the Thrail. She sought a mate beyond her species. The galactic summit shimmered within the floating city of Selvra, where species from across the Orion Arm congregated. Humans, new to the interstellar stage but fast learners, mingled among far older civilizations. It was here that Empress Zelura first saw him, a human diplomat named Elias Carter. He was discussing trade ethics with 3 quarrelsome delegates, keeping perfect calm despite their overlapping arguments. He stood unarmed, unarmored, and entirely unafraid amid creatures with razor limbs and plasma organs. When he smiled, it was warm, uncomplicated, and strangely disarming. Humans, the Empress had learned, reproduced through a single species genetic mechanism. They did not resonate, they did not harmonize, and yet somehow they multiplied with extraordinary ease. Their hybridization compatibility was still a scientific mystery. But Elias had something else, something the princess lacked but desperately needed: unpredictability. The Empress's eyes glowed a contemplative violet. Perhaps unpredictability was exactly what her lineage required. Veilani protested naturally. "Mother, he is human," she exclaimed, her iridescent frills trembling in disbelief. "Their lifespan is barely a fraction of ours. Their biology is chaotic. And Elias Carter is a diplomat, not a warrior, not even a geneticist." "Exactly," Zelura replied, her tone brooking no argument. "Our ways have failed. Your resonance cannot be restored. If the future refuses to bend to us, then we must bend to it." Elias, for his part, had been stunned when the marriage proposal was delivered through official channels. "You want me to marry an alien princess?" he repeated to the human ambassador. "For interspecies diplomacy," the ambassador clarified quickly. "And, possibly future genetic research." Elias took 3 days to think. He spoke with Veilani over secure holocommunication. She was polite, graceful, and surprisingly direct. "I will not force you," she told him. "But my people need this. I need this." And Elias, who had always believed diplomacy was about building bridges no one else dared attempt, agreed. Their marriage ceremony was broadcast across 3 galaxies. Humans watched with awe. Thrail citizens watched with guarded hope. Other species watched with intrigue or envy. The Empress watched with a heavy heart, wondering whether she had doomed her daughter to an experiment no scientist could predict. The newlyweds lived on the lush moon of Thristle, where the Thrail kept their royal habitats. Veilani taught Elias about Thrail culture, the crystalline gardens that responded to emotion, the singing tides that vibrated in harmonic frequencies, the great hall of resonance where past empresses stored their memories. Elias taught Veilani about Earth, oceans of saltwater, artistic chaos, and the bizarre human habit of seasoning perfectly edible food with pepper. Veolani found Earth history baffling yet fascinating, especially humanity's tendency to survive against impossible odds. Despite their differences, affection grew. And yet, for nearly 2 years there were no children. The Thrale doctors claimed it was impossible. Human scientists doubted hybrid viability. The Empress tried to hide her despair. Then, on the second cycle of their union, Veolani collapsed during a diplomatic meeting, glowing. Not her usual bioluminescent glow. This was deeper, primal, and unmistakably resonant. The healers ran their tests twice, then a third time. Princess Veolani was pregnant. Elias fainted the moment the announcement was made. The pregnancy was unlike anything recorded in either species. Veolani's body shifted between Thrale iridescence and human warmth, alternating states in ways that baffled medical scanners. Elias spent long nights speaking to her belly, telling stories of Earth rainstorms and childhood snow. The Empress visited often, though she pretended it was merely political duty. "Your genetic harmonics are stabilizing," she murmured one evening, touching her daughter's arm with rare tenderness. "Your children will be strong." Veolani smiled faintly. "Children?" The Empress froze. "Plural." By the time Veolani went into labor, the moon of Thrissel was swarmed by medical teams, Thrale, human, and neutral interspecies specialists. The Empress herself stood at the forefront, her frills quivering with a mixture of terror and anticipation. The birth was long. Veolani endured it with fierce dignity, gripping Elias's hand so tightly that his bones cracked twice. He insisted he was fine both times. And then, the first cry rang out, a sound unlike any species had ever heard. The infant was gently lifted for the Empress to see. A child with soft brown human skin, but faint glowing patterns beneath, Thrale luminescence in delicate swirling lines. Eyes like polished obsidian, but slit vertically like a Thrale royal. Tiny frills fluttered from the child's temples. The Empress's throat constricted. A single tear fell, glimmering like liquid silver. Then the second child was lifted. This one had a carapace-like shimmer across the lower arms and back, iridescent and strong, yet the face was unmistakably human in its softness. Its hair glowed faintly at the tips, pulsing in rhythm with its heartbeat. Twins. Hybrid twins. Impossible. Miraculous. The Empress stared, stunned, overwhelmed, almost disbelieving, as her grandchildren reached toward her with tiny luminescent fingers. The news spread across the stars in a wave of astonishment. Species that had dismissed human genetics as primitive suddenly reconsidered their assumptions. Thrale scholars announced that hybrid resonance was no longer a myth but a reality. Political alliances shifted. Scientific communities re-evaluated everything they thought they knew about interspecies compatibility. But for the Empress, none of that mattered when she held her grandchildren. They cooed at her, tiny fractal lights dancing beneath their skin. They harmonized when they slept, emitting soft resonant hums that matched royal frequencies, something Veolani herself had never achieved. Elias watched his children with a dazed smile. "Guess humans really are unpredictable." Veolani laughed softly. "It seems the universe enjoys surprises." The Empress placed her hands gently on each child's head. "These children," she declared, voice trembling with emotion and authority, "shall herald a new era for both our peoples. They are the bridge between what we were and what we will become." And for the first time in centuries, Empress Zelura felt the heavy weight of her crown lighten. Her lineage would continue, not as expected, but stronger than ever. Years later, the twins grew into symbols of unity, princes of two worlds. They inherited Elias's empathy and Veolani's radiant strength. They ran through crystalline forests, glowing trails in their wake, while diplomats and scientists argued passionately about the future they represented. But for the Empress, for Veolani, and for Elias, they were simply children, curious, bright, mischievous, and loved. The Empress often watched them play, still marveling at the improbable miracle. She had married her barren daughter to a human out of desperation. She had expected political stability at best. She had never expected grandchildren. And she had never expected to love them so fiercely. The universe, she realized, was far grander and more unpredictable than any empress could ever plan for. And sometimes, the greatest legacy began with the most impossible of unions.